Hello, and welcome to another exciting week here on Questioning Everything. We are on episode 29 tonight, Star Forts, the Old World Grid. So glad to all of you tuning in here live tonight. I did survive the Snowmageddon 2026 blizzard here in northeastern Wisconsin. It was a tough one, folks. I believe we got just over 26 inches of snow here. Uh, Completely buried in this weekend. School was canceled. The whole city was shut down Monday and Tuesday. So it was a fun bit of weather. I've never seen a crazy snow system quite like that. It's been, over 30 some years of living in the upper Midwest, and I've never seen a snowstorm quite like that, folks. Let alone it was almost 70 degrees less than a week ago. And then that extreme switch up, we've had some spring snowstorms before, but nothing quite like that. And it just completely buried the whole city. We're still digging out from it here. So tonight we're going to be talking about star forts. We've talked resets, we've talked staged history, we talked the lost inhabitants of this realm. Tonight we hit the infrastructure they left behind, star forts, those perfect geometric stars you see on old world maps. And of course, we'll be taking your questions and comments throughout the show. I see a lot of you guys in chat here already. All the regulars, how are you guys doing tonight? King, Kristen, Scott, Michael, all of you guys, thank you so much for tuning in live here. I know it's late at night, so extra thank yous for that. So, these beautiful cymatic structures found throughout our realm. We're going to be going over a little bit about what they are, what their purpose is, what the mainstream tells us their purpose is, and looking at a couple of them a little bit more closely to see if the narrative is accurate. So, officially, these star forts, these bastion forts, started popping up around the 1500s. Um, they're officially stated as a bastion to deflect cannonballs. These star shapes on them were used to deflect cannonballs and with relative efficiency. Hang on just a moment here. I'm going to pull up some slideshows of these beautiful star forts while we talk about them. Okay. So officially these star forts, I apologize. I'm going to kind of be switching screens back and forth here. I don't have any printed off notes because of the snowstorm. I couldn't get to the school and get them printed off. My wife is very nice enough to be able to print off all my show notes every episode. So I'm kind of going on it digitally here. So bear with me on that while I switch back and forth. Let's get this slideshow started for you guys first. Okay. It was a fun weekend though with all that snow, regardless, except getting stuck like a half a dozen times just to go to the one grocery store that was open this week or this weekend. Otherwise though, it was quite a fun little experience watching the massive amount of snow accumulate in such a short time. I posted a few pictures of those on my social media as well. So the mainstream narrative tells us these star forts that you're seeing here all started popping up around the 1500s. Thousands went up across Europe India, Russia, and the Americas. And then in 1800s to the 1900s, they suddenly became obsolete. They were filled in, leveled, turned into parks. But if you zoom out on these structures, as you're seeing here, the perfect pentagons, hexagons, multi pointed stars, the exact cymatic patterns that matches frequencies like the golden ratio 432, the 432 hertz that we've talked about. So, why are they over engineering across the world, worldwide, for cannons, and then abandoned them right when artillery got better? And I believe it's because cannons were the cover story. These star forts were part of a worldwide connected grid of energy. We've talked a little bit about the ether network, the free energy systems that the old world had. I believe the star forts were part of what helped resonate these frequencies, these ether frequencies, stabilizing the old world ether grid. The bells would ring, the forts would hum, the energies would flow. Free power, free flight for the world. So, a couple star forts that I want to touch on that kind of really raises some questions for the mainstream narrative. One of the first ones is Fort Jefferson in Dry Tortuga, Florida, right off the Key West or the Florida Keys. Let me see if I can get some images of those pulled up for you here. So, Fort Jefferson is in the middle of the Gulf of America, surrounded by no sources of fresh water. Very hard to get any materials in there. That's right in the Hurricane Harbor area, the hurricane zone. It was really kind of isolated. It was not very much of a strategic location by any means. Um, I'm just waiting for those pictures to pull up. Sorry, folks. So it was not really in a strategic location at all. Let me pull it up on Google Maps here for you, actually. That'll be a little bit easier for you guys to see. And it's actually loaded up still. Sorry, having so many of these tabs with my notes open. It's kind of slowing down my computer a little bit, but that's okay. Okay. So right here in the middle of the Key West lies Port Jefferson. And if you see, it's really not too much of a good defensive angle. Very easy to get past it through the Bahamas, Caribbean, go around it. It was never a shot fired from the fort. It was never used defensively at all. Um, let's see if I can show some more pictures here. I'll talk a little bit about it. Despite that, it is the largest brick mason structure in North America. The most bricks, mostly red bricks, of course, used to build any structure still to this day in North America. And the funny thing about that is the fort was never completed. And it was, again, like I said, never a shot fired from the fort. And it was never officially completed. They just abandoned it despite all of the material, all the time spent building it and putting it together. Just look at all that beautiful red brick masonry. Of course, they say most of it was built by prisoners. That was one of the only uses of Fort Jefferson. It served as a prison mostly. Though again, it was supposed to be this big, giant military fort. So the amount of bricks in this is just insane, folks. And it really breaks every rule about these star forts. It's located 70 miles off of the Key West. Like I said, largest brick mason structure in North America, 16 million total red bricks, all shipped in by sea in the perfect hexagonal star shape, six massive bastions, moats, an underground cistern, tunnels, walls up to 50 feet high, built on a tiny coral key that's basically a sandbar. And the official story said that they built it from 1846 to 1875. Uh, it was a military fort to guard the Gulf shipping lanes. But again, it never fired a shot, used mostly as a prison, and construction stopped because they decided it was obsolete. That's exactly it, Michael. They abandoned it, or it was still under construction before they found it. It was under construction or it was in ruins, and they just basically spent time renovating it and repairing it to the best of their ability, I think. So 30 years of construction from this fort with 19th century tech, no local materials, every single brick, all 16 million of them, like I said, had to be shipped in through Hurricane Alley. There's absolutely no source of fresh water anywhere on the island, and it being 70 miles away from anything, any pockets of civilization. In the mid 1800s, like getting that much fresh water for a fort that big would be nearly impossible to keep it stocked with just fresh water alone. And the location again was terrible for defense. It was 70 miles away from anything, exposed to every storm. There is no high grounds. Um, and ironclads, that was those ships, primarily in the Civil War time, the big giant metal steamers. The ironclads were already making forts obsolete before they even finished it, supposedly. They knew all of that, yet they kept pouring resources in for decades, supposedly. Why build the biggest brick structure in the hemisphere on a speck of coral that's basically useless for cannons? That's where the whole narrative behind these star forts' uses and their purposes really kind of crumble. These were not real good defensive positions. These were old world remnants of a worldwide grid. That's why they all popped up supposedly in our history, we're told, along the 1500s. There are a total of nowadays known star forts. There's some people that have done great levels of documenting these. Um, so officially, they have documented around 1,734 star forts and related star-like forts across 105 nations across this realm. There's really good star fort site here where you can kind of see them. Let me see if I can share my screen for you guys on that. Yeah. So I can post this link in the resources tab on the video description for the episode tonight, but you can kind of see it up here. These are all the known documented star forts across this realm, all over. Many along the East Coast, Martin says yes. And I mean, officially, a lot of these were used as military forts, and they did have good defensive posturing, but the amount of them built up, much like we've talked about with the pyramids and even, cryptid creatures like cynocephaly, dragons, giants, these star forts share that same grouping with them of being impossibly built all over this realm, despite having any communications with one another. And they were popped up worldwide, not just in Europe, though tons and tons in Europe. Another area I want to kind of show you guys in Europe is Antwerp, Belgium. It's like a city of 100 star forts. Um, but as you can see here, all over Europe, surprisingly, a lot of them are absent in the Russian area, the Siberia area where Tartaria was in this region here. I believe that's because that was, as we zoom in, probably here, you can even see it. Like I told you in those previous episodes, if you look at old world maps of Tartaria, all the places where the big cities of Tartaria were, looks like they were bombed. All these little crater lakes all over Siberia. So, of course, it goes without saying that you would find a very much lacking area of star forts. It's just like they seem to stop in Russia. Exactly, Martine. Martine says here on YouTube the sheer amount of cannonry and gunpowder to adequately arm them was not even possible. Timeline is as stated. We didn't have the infrastructure and they are far older than claimed. Exactly. Just looking at Fort Jefferson, Dry Tortuga, and the Keys, 70 miles away from any fresh drinking water on the middle of a sandbar. And built, they had 12 million bricks supposedly shipped in by sailing ships to these. I believe so. Yes, Scott. The old world truly did have communications worldwide. That's why all these structures are similar. It was a worldwide civilization. Some kind of talk about the Tower of Babel when you get into that, but that's perhaps a topic for another video. Regardless, there's true signs that the narrative that we're told about history doesn't add up. These civilizations did indeed have communications with one another. Were the star forts part of that communication, Scott? I'm not exactly sure, but they definitely had communications with one another. It was a shared world. That's why all this architecture, the ones that weren't destroyed, they all shared these same similar aspects. Wasn't just a popular style choice at the time. It was worldwide civilization. Perhaps Tartaria, but like I've said before, there's many more civilizations than just Tartaria that has been erased. Tartaria is just a kind of a title that gets used for everything in the old world. Um, it's kind of like a blanket term. We talked about that in a little bit of our Tartaria video. But many great civilizations like Atlantis, Tartaria, all that that just was well documented throughout history and then it just got erased, wiped out. Wiped out. So let me get back here to kind of going over these star forts a little bit. Let me see if I can pull the slideshow I have of them back up, folks. Keep dropping the questions in chat. And if you want to be a part of program, either calling into the show, discussing the episodes before or after them, Discord is a great place to do that, folks. Here is the link there for my Discord. You can find the link to all of my channels like Discord, TikTok, all of that in my bio, on my link tree as well. If you want to chat, get a hold of me, it's a great place to do that. Okay, give me just a moment here, folks. Just pulling up my notes on my slow, antiquated computer. Okay, so like I mentioned here, these star forts, they seem to act as a connector, as a medium for this worldwide connected ether grid. That is why they are all over this realm, and in particularly all over, they are placed on key geographical hotspots, energy flows. We're talking, of course, of these ley lines of this realm. Many of these star forts are found placed dead center on some of these ley lines. In particular, we'll talk about a couple of them. Uh, St. Michael's ley line, a big one. going all the way from the St. Michael Star Fort in France, going to the Mount St. Michael, Skiliag Michael, and many others. Giza, Machu Picchu, Nazca, the Easter Islands, all connected as well on these ley lines, on these starfort lines. Got a map to show you a little bit of that correlated in Google Earth as well. There's a lot of great add-ons, folks, you can find online. I'll place a couple of them in the show notes as well after the episode, where you can kind of plug in what others have kind of documented, like the star forts, the ley lines, and you can plug them all onto Google Earth and kind of see a visual representation. Now, it might not be on your favorite Earth model. It might, be on that globe Earth model, but you can still see the key ley line alignments here. Let me just pull that up for you guys so you can see a little preview of that. And I'll post these again, like I said, on my show notes after the show. Okay, this is in Europe, the photo that I have for you, so you can kind of see the awesome work that they've done mapping all of these over the years. I'll show you another great site where you can find a lot of these star forts too. Okay, let's see if this will pull up for me. All right, we're going to give that a moment to load here. Sorry, folks. Being a little slow on me tonight. Okay, there we go. So this is just an example of Europe. All of the star drops that you see are actual star forts. And the lines, of course, are many numerous ley lines across this realm. And you can see a large pattern where a vast majority of them in just Europe alone, and it's the same way worldwide, you'll see them all aligning on these ley lines, these power points, these grid, these focal points of the grid. A lot of them are also tied into those portals, like we've talked about in the Grand Canyon, and many other places. They're all also on these earthen ley lines. So that's just a little bit of a visual of that. Here is that St. Michael's star fort, one of the really more famous, beautiful ones in France. Another one in France, not really known too much about, Rosnay star in Rosny, France. I believe I pronounced that correctly. A really interesting star fort there. Let me see if I can pull that up here. Yes, right here. I got the tab. So in Rosny, France, however it's pronounced, a very small town. However, right to the north of it is a giant star fort. This is probably one of the biggest star forts that I've seen, folks. Let me see if I can get a measuring tool here for you guys watching. I don't think I can do this. This is just on Google Earth, so I don't think I can have like a measuring tool on it. Google or not Google Earth, just Google Maps. Yeah, Google Earth, you can do the measuring, but I've done the measurements before. It's almost 2 miles long from end to end, the star fort. And of course, it is highly blurred out. You see all the other areas around the star fort is clearly visible, but you try and zoom in on it on Google Earth, Google Maps, and it is completely blurred out. Officially, it is an old military fort that the French government has recommissioned into a nuclear submarine communications post. And even the mainstream admits that there is some odd geomagnetic energies and properties in the area of the star fort that they use for testing of various things, but it also just so happens to be a very secretive nuclear submarine base. Just a couple star forts I kind of want to highlight for you guys. Has anyone ever been to or seen the Memphis Gong Chamber? No, I have not heard of that or seen that. Very interesting. Is that Memphis, Tennessee you're talking about with that gong chamber? Um, Lots of very interesting things. They have the full-size Parthenon in Tennessee, the only full-size Parthenon, supposedly a recreation of it, but it's very, very massive, built for a World's Fair that was supposed to only last for 6 months and tear it down like all the other buildings there. What's the name of the town in France with the star fort? Rosnay or Rosny, Rosnay. I'm terrible at pronouncing any town names, if you guys haven't noticed, that are not in the great state of Wisconsin. But if you guys want to diss me for my pronunciation of towns, I will go state by state or country by country for you. You pronounce my Wisconsin cities up and see how well you do. Current use, Michael G. looked this up here. This is one of the largest VLF, very low frequency transmission sites in the world, used to communicate with French nuclear submarines. Yes, yes, yes. What about Minnesota and Wisconsin? Is Fort Snelling a star fort? I don't believe Fort Snelling is a star fort. No. Let's pull up the maps here and just double check. I think there's only like one star fort in no, there isn't any star forts in Wisconsin or Minnesota that's mapped. The only star forts in like the Midwest area, there were some in like Chicago. Fort Dearborn was one that's gone now. There was one in Detroit here. That's what I really like about this one Google map. I'll have this link to you guys in the description. Look, just like the European star forts, you see that nice, beautiful star fort outline. That's in Detroit. I think there's one other one in Michigan, if I remember. Yeah, right by Detroit as well. Fort Maldine. And there it is here. You can kind of see a lot of it's buried now. There's part of it right there. There's the outline. Yeah, you can kind of see it, but a lot of it's gotten buried. This was a common theme with a lot of these star forts after, again, they all popped up supposedly in the same period around 1500s, 1700s. And then they went a process of modernization on them. Uh, Modernization where they either destroyed them, turned them into parks, buried them, covered them over, and a lot of the star forts that you that were out there are gone. Essentially, they decided they were no longer useful defensive positions, and they just got rid of them. In just a moment, let me pull this back up here for you guys. Sorry, my computer is being a little slow here today. It's silly to get hung up on spelling or pronunciations as long as folks can understand you. Yeah, I agree, but the internet is what the internet is, and they love to kind of pick apart any words that you don't say or pronounce properly. That's just the way it is. I missed it, but planning to going to visit GF in France, so went to check it out if it's nearby. Yeah, I don't know how far that is from, like, I don't know where GF is here. Let me zoom out on it. It's kind of just in like the French countryside. Um, Kind of like here's Lyons, Paris, like a couple hundred miles north of it. It looks like about 200-300 miles north of it. So I mean, I don't know if you're in the Paris region. Um, Check it out. Get some pictures. You can't. I mean, you can go on the roads there, but that's about the best area you're going to see of that area. Yeah, these days AI lies and or Wikipedia and Google is altered in real time. Oh yes, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely right there. So that was one of the forts I wanted to show you. Another one, let's just check out Fort Union that kind of debunks the narrative as well. I'll pull it up right on this one map that we were looking at here from Google Earth. Share my screen. Okay. So Fort Union in New Mexico, a fort that is completely out of out of any real defensive positions, out of any real like rivers or anything like that. and it looks very, very old and weathered for a fort built in America. Right here. As you can see, just the outline of the fort today. It is a national monument, and there is a lot of, like, ruins around there. About 158 miles from Paris. Okay, Michael, yeah. Yep, Rosenay Street View is available, but very blurry in places. Lots of barbed wire too. And yeah, the town of Rosenay itself is a very, very small town. I believe it's only a few thousand people population, which makes me wonder how such a small town, and there's nowhere else around it, could support such a large star fort. I mean, that is the largest star fort I've ever seen. It's almost 2 miles long, folks. And you gotta wonder how many personnel would be sitting in those areas and where they would get supplied at and where they would live at and off base and such. Very interesting for it. Let's see if you guys can see this here well. Let me see. So this is the Fort Union Star Fort in New Mexico. It looks like an ancient buried site that looks like it's been buried and long forgotten for thousands of years. But look at just that geometric precision on this, folks. Even though it's all buried, you can still see the outline. And it's so beautiful. I mean, no builders would be able to build that precisely in the 1500s, 18 to the 1800s period. Yes, the structures are amazing and with some rehab could be lived in now. Yeah, a lot of them are just buried and forgotten though, unfortunately. Unfortunately, a lot of them are just buried and forgotten or turned into parks so we can get this nice little fun narrative about them. So, like I said, after the 1500s to 1700s, those same designs were everywhere. There was no gradual spread about them. They just all seem to have popped up in history. And if you look on pretty much anywhere except for Russia, there's star forts all over the place. Whether it's North America, Canada, America, Mexico, Europe, Africa, India, all having star forts, all long before they were connected or communicated with the rest of this realm. Got to do some boots on the ground and drones in the air to get info and footage. Would make some good road trip adventures. Yes, yes, I do plan on visiting all of these type of sites someday. That is my dream. That is kind of where I plan on going with this. I want to do kind of like a mobile documentary series, going to places like my one of my big wishes is to see that fort in Florida, Fort Jefferson. The most 12 million bricks, I believe I said was used there. 12 million bricks. It's the largest, still to this day, largest brick mason structure in this hemisphere. I would just love to see it. I'm not a big boat traveling person, so taking a 70-mile boat trip off the Keys does kind of make me a little nervous, but that is my dream to check that place out, particularly one day, Fort Jefferson. But I want to travel around and document all of these places for you guys because yeah, that is very true. The best thing we can do is boots on the ground. Looking, and I've told you guys this with like the mud flood evidence. Look in your local towns, look in your local cities, dig up the information your local historical society has on these star forts, on these buildings. If you're near a star fort area, a lot of these star forts were turned into cities, or they were, as you can see in some of them, massive star fort cities. There's a aerial shot of the star fort in New Mexico as well. Just beautiful works of engineering, beautiful geometric precision. When they had no aerial vehicles, they had no aerial mapping. One of the most popular areas, the Statue of Liberty, if you've seen in that picture, is actually right on top of a old star fort. There are many, many star forts in the New York area. And again, folks, they were used as forts. I believe they were repurposed that way. But the true purpose of these star forts was something much greater. If you go to Florida, visit the Coral Castle. Yes, Michael, that is a beautiful, beautiful place. I've been to Florida a couple times. Haven't been in probably 10, 20 years, but yeah, Coral Castle. If you guys haven't heard of that, one gentleman, I can't remember his last name. It's Ed Skeen or something, I believe it is. But one gentleman moved all of these coral stones and built this beautiful coral castle all by himself. Defied any conventional wisdom, any conventional knowledge of how they did it. Uh, but he let me see if I can pull up some pictures of Coral Castle because that's Michael, great statement, kind of off topic on Star Forts, but so one of the beautiful mysteries right here in America. Give me a second. Let me see what I can find on Coral Castle for you guys to see because beautiful place, great idea. Great mention, Michael. Great mention. Yes, Coral Castle. Edward Lead Scalnian. Let me just pull up this whole Google page so you can check it out yourself, guys. You can look at it together, see some of the beautiful pictures. So it's a limestone structure created by one man, comprising of numerous large stones, each weighing several tons, sculpted into a variety of shapes, including slab walls, tables, chairs, and crescent moons, a water fountain, and a sundial. Let's see some pictures of this. All done by one man. Look at these sculptures. Look at the size of these limestone blocks. Several tons each. And like I said, the narrative cannot explain it to this day how he made this. He, Ed Gene, yes, don't surprise me coming from Wisconsin. Yes, absolutely, Scott. Yes, can we imagine their beauty and their glory and their yes, they would have been beautiful in their full glory, those star forts. Yes. Yeah, just look at these blocks that he all moved and shaped by himself. And he said he had this one machine and he used old world knowledge to basically levitate these blocks into place. And he would work on it late at night, closed to the public. And he would just, however he did it, nobody would exactly know. All of this was done by one man. That's the most crazy part about it. Clearly, another person that had tapped into old world information. Great mention there with the Coral Castle there, Michael. So, back on the topic of hands on star forts, like I mentioned here at the beginning of the episode, how they're all connected onto these ley lines, this global grid of ours. Alfred Watkins was the one that first theorized ley lines back in 1925. Straight alignments of ancient sites, stone circles, mounds, and cathedrals. Modern maps show star forts sitting on those same ley lines. The St. Michael's line, which I mentioned, that's where the St. Michael's star fort city is in France, um, is one of the big ones. It goes all the way into modern day Israel, the St. Michael's lines, with all these like St. Michael's, the Mount of St. Michael's, couple others. Sorry, my notes are being a little bit laggy here on me, folks. Trying to get back to my place I was in here. So another oddity about a lot of these star forts are either adjacent or nearby to them or inside the interior in the dead center where you can see them from an aerial view. You will find these odd keyholes in the middle of them. Very odd architectural choice. Let me show you some of these star forts in Antwerp, Belgium. So Antwerp, Belgium, as I said, is a city of star forts, hundreds of star forts in Antwerp. And the ones that we can still see visually from today, just in this little picture alone, I can see one, two, three. I don't know how well you can see my mouse pointer. Three, four. Let's see, about five or six star forts right in this aerial zoom. But when you look in closer of some of them, what you will see is these little keyholes, ones that are not um, kind of buried around. Here is one, or overgrown, I should say. Another one, you can see the keyhole area right here in the middle of it, but it's kind of overgrown with trees. And I'm just kind of blindly doing this on the fly. So not all of them are going to have the keyholes in them, but this is a good city to kind of represent my point of these keyholes. A lot of these are oddly blurred out, kind of like that Rosenay, France one. This one is blurred out. There's another one right next to it. This is a beautiful star fort. This one is completely blurred out as well. This one you could tell this used to be a star fort, the shapings of the inlets, but this looks like it's been completely destroyed at some point, or again, part of the whole modernization process in the 1800s, buried over, destroyed, or turned into a park. Find some more here so I can show you some real good clear keyholes. Is this one going to show me one? Nope, not that one. Here you can kind of see one. I don't know. There's that nice little keyhole shape. And we're going to go to like the Statue of Liberty. And if they're not in the fort on some of these, you will find the keyhole right next to them. In this case, right in the walkway to it. There is the keyhole shape. It's almost like I'm not sure exactly the symbolism behind the key. Perhaps it's a reference to, the keys of this ether network, this grid, and they kind of wanted to show it. They kind of wanted to, make it last for centuries, make it known for centuries. Even if this history got erased and buried, there's still traces of these very connected, very similar shapes worldwide. It would make people like us ask questions. Okay, back to Antwerp here. I'll show you a couple more of them because really it's very fun zooming around on Google Earth, Google Maps in a city like Antwerp where there's hundreds of these star forts. Some of them on the river ends. A lot of them, like I said, are buried and destroyed. Here's another one. Very nice one. This one doesn't have that keyhole shape in the middle that we can see. But always look in the center of these star forts when you're looking at them. They always seem to have some kind of either odd structures, odd shapes, or geometry in the center of them. It's kind of like an operating keyhole they just kind of threw. And this one looks like it used to be a star fort too. You can kind of see the shape and outline of it, but it's flooded over now. There's another star fort. And again, I'm just doing this blindly, folks. I encourage you to do it on your own as well. Right here in the middle, you see that little odd shape, that odd circular pattern. Looks like it's kind of partially became homes now. But you got to ask what all these star forts were made for in the time of only horse and buggy. Were they really just real good defensive positions? Are there any in China? There are a few in China. There's some in Japan as well. Let's go back to the giant star fort map where this is probably the best listing I've found of all the star forts. Like I said, 1,734 star forts are on this map, folks. I'll have the link in my show notes here at the end of the episode. Once I edit it in, I'll put it in the description of the videos here so you guys can go to it yourself. Yeah, China, there is a couple star forts in China. Let's see here. Shenzhen, right off by the Hong Kong. Here is one. I think this might be one of the only ones in China. Let's look at that beautiful same pattern. Same cymatic sacred geometry pattern the world over. The star forts, there is a star fort in Taiwan as well. Go and show you that one. Same pattern, same shape. Most of them are just buried over, forgotten, abandoned. You got to think that there's so much more under this soil that we're not seeing here. Hey, Nephilim Hunter, how's it going? I did get a couple emails back from some of those podcast shows that you reached out to. I really, really, really appreciate. Big shout out to you there, helping this channel grow like that. So yeah, I responded back to a few of them. And hopefully, we'll either have them on the show or they'll have me on their show, vice versa. I'll let you guys know when to expect those. But big thanks to Nephilim Hunter for making that possible. And let me show you just how much even one of the most remote countries, the most intentionally isolationist, Japan, even had quite a few star forts themselves here. Are very beautiful too. This one is pretty much abandoned, but what I like right here next to this star fort, there's like a little mini version of it. Of course, no longer acting as a defensive network. They're just kind of buried over and forgotten, but you can still see the outlines of them. That's what's crazy. Even in that New Mexico one that's in complete ruins, it really does look like a circuit board. Yes, it does. The whole world does, honestly. Like, the more you dig into this stuff, folks, and you start poking around, you're looking at them, think of things like star forts and how they're all connected on these ley lines. It is a giant circuit board, folks. It's a giant computer. The earth was built out in that layout by our ancient ancestors with extreme precision, with extreme technology that we couldn't even fathom today. And most of it is just in ruins and abandoned, and nobody has a clue how to operate that anymore. Couple more from Japan region, so you guys can see how beautiful they are, and they're all in that same pattern worldwide. So as you can see, here's the link right there. If you guys want to copy and paste that, take a screenshot of it or whatever, I'll again have that link in my show notes also. Yes, yeah, Alice. I mean, that's the way I see it as well. We'll do a little more episode deeper on like the whole computer Earth. I've showed you guys a little bit about it when we first talked about the ether technology, quite a few episodes back by now. Um, but it really is realm wide. I think now will be a good time. We'll take a quick minute sponsor break. We'll be right back with that, showing more of these star forts around the world, take more of your questions and questioning everything. Be right back in a minute. A quick shout out to this program sponsor, Riverside. If these live shows sound smooth and clear, that's Riverside making it happen. Killer audio, zero hassle, and it works every time, even on long nights like tonight. I've tried a bunch. This is the one that actually delivers. Want to start your own podcast? You should totally do it. Make your voice heard. Grab my link in the bio or show notes. It's an affiliate link, helps support the show, costs you nothing. Thanks for listening. Now back to the mysteries. All right, we are back here. So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit more about Fort Union, just kind of go over just how much it breaks the narrative. That's the Star Fort we talked about in New Mexico. It is in the middle of nowhere, the very much middle of nowhere. Here's a picture of it. Not a good place to build a defensive platform, a defensive formation, especially one with such geometric precision. This is a massive star fort. The second and third versions were full shaped design. So you can see the one main one here and the second outlined version. Sorry, hang on, let me get to my pointer. So the first version, the first part of the star fort right here, the interior, and then the second star pattern, and then outward here, the third part of it. So this was built as an earthen star fort, supposedly meaning it was mostly just earthen mounds in 1861, specifically to face, according to the mainstream narrative, a Confederate invasion into New Mexico. The third iteration of this star fort became the largest military installation in the Southwest. It was a supply depot, headquarters, prison, and arsenal. The official story behind the star fort was between 1851 and 1891. It was built to protect the Santa Fe Trail and serve as a logistics hub against Indians and later Confederates. But the problem again with this is it's so out of place in the middle of nowhere. The rolling hills and the Mora Valley where it's at is far from any major city or border threat at the time. Um, so again, we can go to a Google Earth map of it here. I can show you guys just how out in the middle of nowhere this particular star fort was. Just a moment. I'm sorry, my notes are being very slow on this, guys. All of our internet here since that big storm, it's kind of been very poopy, to say the least. Oh, just a second, guys. I'm sorry. I'm just reloading my tabs here, guys, because my computer's frozen up at the moment. Okay, here we go. We're back in business. So let me show you where this is in New Mexico again, geographically located next to nothing of importance. So it's not on any border of Mexico, anything like that. Very, very far from, say, Las Vegas, which is right here, about 100 or so miles. Santa Fe, which is, I believe, to the, yeah, right here, Santa Fe region, that's about another 100 or so miles. So it's really located in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere. And there it is. And you just look at how large that whole land of it is. Probably a lot more under there than what we're told, but yeah, it's just again in the middle of nowhere. Here's some of the ruins of it as well for you guys to see. Find some more pictures of it here. Bear with me. There we go. Okay. Let's look at the ruins of it. It just is so out of place for the area, folks. I'm really trying to kind of dig into it. Put those little fake cannons there to make it look like official. But yeah, in the middle of nowhere, that star fort sat. So bear with me. I'm just getting back to my notes on it. So again, it's in the Mora Valley, far from any major city or border threat at the time. There's no natural defenses around it. It is exposed to every storm and raid. It's just in the middle of an open field. There's no high grounds or any strategic areas around it. That would be the worst spot to build a star fort if you're trying to defend any of the cities or any of the trade routes of the time. So the resources to build such a massive star fort would be, again, narrative breaking for the time. It was a massive construction of adobe, brick, and earthworks in a remote desert with no local material. Supply lines stretched hundreds of miles along the Santa Fe Trail. They built three versions, kept expanding it again and again and again. even after the railroad made it obsolete. Officially, the fort was abandoned in 1891, right when the rest of all these star forts were also abandoned and modernized or turned into parks, buried, forgotten, etc. Why pour decades of labor and enormous amounts of resources into a star fort in the middle of empty plains with with almost no real enemy that needed that kind of fortification? And again, it has the perfect star geometry, the matching cymatic patterns you see in star forts in Europe, North Africa, India, China, all over. The southwest, again, it sits on a major ley line. It actually intersects with two major southwestern ley lines in the area. There are reports from LIDAR of underground structures, arsenals, tunnels, and tomb chambers in the underneath the star fort. It was built on disputed Mora land, and it encroached on the local natives on the time. There was never a major battle there. Glorieta Pass was nearby, but Fort Union itself was mostly used for logistics. This wasn't about cannons, folks. It was another resonance node in that worldwide connected grid. It served no defensive purpose. It showed no combat. It was just told to us as a logistics fort. But why would you spend so much time, so much material, so much resources and manpower to build just a logistics hub in the middle of nowhere? Let me know if any of that makes sense to you. Emid said, I'm not sure if Jacob will get into it, but their rabbit holes is consciousness of water. Consciousness of water. Great, great topic. Yes, let's talk about that on Friday. We could definitely talk about that on some open lines Friday here. By the way, the 19th, the next episode, guys, just wanted to kind of touch base again with that, is going to be the live question and answer on the with Flat Earth Dave from Dave Weiss. We've had him on the show before, but this one will be a live show where you guys can ask your questions, try and get that Bitcoin of his if you can prove that the Earth is a globe. He's got a 3 Bitcoin offer still standing. So get your questions ready for next episode. That will be the 19th. I haven't talked to him in a couple days, so if anything happens scheduling wise or anything, I will of course let you guys know. I have a backup episode on taps just in case, but we should be good to go for the 19th live 10:30 p.m. It has to be the star alignments or something to do with the celestial, Scott said. Yes. Yeah, I mean, I believe that these patterns are for reasons other any other reason other than defensive formations. I don't believe they were ever made to or used for cannon fire. I mean, it's just a silly narrative to think that they would spend so much time and effort to build such perfectly geometric patterns for that. Nephilim Hunter, you asked how much snow did I get this weekend? Approximately in my area, got about 26.5 inches of snow. It was crazy. Snow was all the way up to my waist in some areas. I had to really kind of struggle to get my garbage cans out to the curb yesterday. It was so deep, and it wasn't just the amount. I mean, 26 inches is a hell of a lot of snow. It was the hurricane force winds that caused the massive, like 4 foot tall plus snow drifts in my area. Like, oh, my poor dog, she literally had to, like, just get kind of pushed out the door in the backyard and just dig a tunnel to an area where there wasn't 4 foot large snowdrifts. Yes, plastic war. Dave does indeed come with the receipts. Yes, he does. I'm not a flat earther myself, as I said. I definitely respect the theory. I just don't have enough evidence to fully settle any one into any one camp. But Dave has tons of information, and he brings the receipts. Really makes you question a lot of things. Like for me, the satellite thing was a big eye opener. The curvature does not match the math that we're told. It's like 1.66 square miles. So for like every 1.66 miles or whatever, you're supposed to like have a certain drop of the curvature, a certain drop of the horizon, and it's nowhere you see that repeated anywhere or actually verified anywhere. So, and Dave does all of this, folks. Definitely check him out. A great person. I would have been building big tunnels and forts. The younger side of me definitely wanted to Nephilim Hunter. I really definitely wanted to, but the older version, the current version of me, the old man that had to unstick his car like half a dozen times. I got stuck 3 times in this grocery store's parking lot just picking up a couple food items. We had my mom who was up here visiting us for the weekend, and she actually got snowed in and wasn't able to leave until Tuesday. Like all the highways and stuff were shut down. There was no tow. There was no tow orders or anything in effect, which basically means if you get stuck on the highway, nobody's going to come and tow you out or save you. It was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. Yeah, I've always wanted to dig snow tunnels. It sounds fun when you live in Texas. We got one. I've used to build awesome snow forts back in the day where all the snow piles came from like the plows and stuff. Me and my buddies would build these big giant snow forts. They were awesome. Nothing quite like the scale of the star forts though, but they were definitely pretty awesome. And here I live in the high deserts in SoCal in the 90s. Alice said, "Yeah, Alice, yeah, I wish I lived there. I wish I lived there during this week. I love the Midwest. I love the seasons. I love Wisconsin. The beautiful scenery and nature in Wisconsin is second to none, in my opinion. But on snowstorms like this, 2.5 foot, 3 foot snowstorms, I definitely wish I was living in California. Yes, absolutely. Talk a couple more points on these star forts here, and then we will take some more of your questions and we will kind of wrap it up. So, like I said earlier, the true purpose of these cymatic or these star forts, the true purpose of these were part of the massive worldwide connected grid of our ether energy system. The circuit boards, I mean, like you said, when you look at these from Google Earth, Google Maps, they all look like they're just a big, giant connected like a big, giant connected motherboard, like a big computer. And that's exactly what they were. Technology way beyond our abilities and our understandings today. That's why we just look at these star forts. They tell us, oh, they were just military defensive positions. Here's another keyhole one. Let me go back to that one for you guys. Talking about those keyholes. This is in the Vatican. You see, just like you do next to the Statue of Liberty, or yeah, Statue of Liberty one, you see that big giant keyhole. And the Star Fort is actually the whole of the Vatican City here, as you can see those angles and those lines right there. With the keyhole, I believe, is some kind of, perhaps it's a portal, perhaps it's a way for us to always see what these sites were. They were keys, they're keys of the energy grid. Um, and some of these look like they were buried with tech during that modernization period, like I was talking to you guys about. See if I can pull up a few examples of those while you guys are keep on asking questions in chat. I don't know where I put those at exactly now. I can't find them easily enough. Yeah, I can't find those ones that I was going to show you guys. Sorry. A little bit all over on that today. I haven't had the best time to show prep with this whole blizzard going on. extra people in the household and everything like that, so I did the best I could to kind of prep all my visuals and stuff. A lot harder than I thought with a household full of people stuck in the middle of a blizzard, though, let me tell you. I'm just glad I'm able to, have the show tonight. All of our internet issues didn't lose any electricity or anything like that. We did have some, internet issues. I mean, Comcast is or not Comcast, Spectrum is what it is, a really cruddy company anyways, so we're always having internet issues up here, but even more so with that storm. Okay, folks. I'm sorry, I'm having a really hard time with my notes. It just like my internet's kind of being very, 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 not working right now. So I keep trying to reload my notes to try and get back on topic here. Bear with me, guys. Just a moment. Let me just reload my browser. Okay, so yeah, my browser crashed again. Dang it. Here we go. Sorry, guys. All right, so I'm just gonna kind of forget my notes here and kind of just riffed it off the top of my head. Star forts, like I said, folks, they weren't built for cannons; they were built for residents. Look at the geometry, perfect stars that match cymatic patterns. Like I said, tuned to 432 hertz, like we've talked about in previous episodes. A lot of these star forts look just like those cymatic shapes on those frequency plates that we've showed you in previous episodes as well. You know, when you blast a frequency on those sand plates and how it resembles a star pattern, it's sacred geometry, nature geometry in tuned with this world. Even more so, why I think they were not made as military defensive points. The keyholes are from back when the Earth circuit was clockwork. LOL, I mean, you might not be wrong. I mean, the keyholes are there for a reason. And if they're not keyholes, like you see here, there's usually something in the middle of these star forts that kind of visually kind of almost look like a keyhole, some kind of geometric pattern. The Vatican, isn't that the place where there's no questions on integrity and truth and morals? I thought that's the place where the bar for all of truth and veracity of speech and history. Oh, yeah, no, that's yeah, that's definitely true, Scott. Absolutely. Yeah, and the Vatican is just such a repository of truth, aren't they? And so willing to share it with all of us. You just have to know exactly what you want to access in those miles and miles and miles of underground vaults. You said it makes me mad anytime I ask it for anything remotely. Ooh, I wanted to download the architect, but not savvy enough. Are you talking about those plugins like on Google Maps or Google Earth? I have a couple. I can show you guys how to do those. I like I said, I'll share a link for the couple ones that I showed you on this episode, kind of mapping out those star forts. All you have to do is download like Google Earth Pro. If you haven't done that, it's a little bit more like resource intensive version of Google Earth. It's saved onto your computer, and then you can add in those plugins right from there. Rhett, you said keyholes had some type of tall pole-like structure that recharged airships. Yes, I believe it was one of the topics I wanted to get to. Thank you. That was in my notes. These star forts had a lot of these ports in them, like in the keyhole shapes. A lot of people theorize in this community that those were used for like charging of the airships that weren't used with helium and hydrogen like they told us. Maybe a large antenna to pull from the ether. I'm not sure, Michael. That could be part of the keyhole spot. Like I said, I'm not sure of the exact use for them, but you see them repeating in so many of these star forts. Or just look towards the center. You always see some very interesting construction in the center of these star forts. There's just kind of a visual showing you of that one map that I showed you all those star forts right there. There's a big tower in the middle of this star fort. There is something about them. Again, being on ley lines as well, they have key they have uses for them. And like I said, they're not military forts. You don't make military forts this advanced, this intricate that from the sky are just perfect sacred geometric patterns. And they're beautiful too. Very beautiful. I just don't think anything this beautiful, this intricate would be used just for defenses. I believe that's what the inheritors used them for. A lot of the repurposed star forts, yeah, they were absolutely great defensive positions as well because the waters around them, a lot of them were surrounded by water moats. I mean, they're great defensive positions. They're great for deflecting cannonballs off of them, but I believe their purpose was a lot more, especially when you look at the ones like Fort Jefferson in the middle of the Gulf of America, 70 miles away from the Key West. No fresh water sources, no continual supply lines to restock the supplies needed. You could not have a fort that big, being the biggest brick mason structure in that hemisphere, without, fresh water, regular supplies. But apparently in the 1800s, you can. Okay, folks, I had a little bit more I wanted to go over on these star forts, but my computer's being very, very difficult today. So I'm going to go kind of focus more on some of your questions you guys have about them and statements. We'll take some more of them. The next episode, Open Line Friday, I'll go more over on star forts, talking about some of the stuff I kind of didn't get to speak to because of my darn notes. Cuba. Yes, Nephilim Hunter, you said, speaking of all that power, been out to Cuba. You have been to Cuba, Nephilim Hunter. That's awesome. I've always wanted to visit Cuba. I think any country like Cuba, there's another one, Turkmenistan, where there's so much, very little to nothing being said about them. And then what is being said about them is usually negative by our media. But when you look at the country, it's beautiful. And I believe there's a lot hidden in Cuba. And being on the 33rd parallel, that's very interesting. There's that 33 again. If they didn't have GPS, star forges for sure work as helpful indicators where you are and where to land. Exactly. Exactly right. They would be very great aerial markers. You could see them from far away in the skies. They would be great land markers for airships, other traveling ships, to see from very far away in the sky. Great point there. Great point there. You went to Havana. Ooh, beautiful, Michael. Do you have any pictures of those, Michael? I'd love to see the pictures of all those beautiful buildings in Havana. Surprise, surprise, that our administration in the US has said that once they're done with Iran, the next place that they're going after is Cuba. A lot of these wars and stuff, folks, especially these modern day wars, are not at all what they're told on the surface. This war with Iran was not about stopping them from getting nukes. This was again about destroying and capitulating to the world elites. Any country that goes against the new world order, the new world government, that doesn't bend their knees to the world's bankers, they always seem to be targets of terrors. They always are told to us as terrorist hotspots, funders of terrorism, etc. And meanwhile, we bomb their schools and we bomb their civilian cities and call ourselves the liberators and the freedom fighters, right? I'm interested to see what they do with Cuba, this administration. It's very interesting time we live in. I'm neither right or left, as I've said before. I mean, I believe they're both the same wing on the same bird of the globalist bird, but this administration is very interesting and not really in a good way so far. Kind of a disappointment. Anywho, take a couple more of your questions here. Noah, you said if the airships didn't run on helium, what do you think they ran on? I believe they ran on ether. Uh, Tesla had a design in patent that he was going to make a grid with these Tesla towers that would charge these airships and be able to transmit electricity from these airships from the ether above. I did show you guys those visuals on a previous episode. Next episode here, I can show you them again, but yeah, I believe, they were charged with some form of ether, static electricity, etc. Yeah, Alice, I don't do politics. I used to. It was a great interest of mine until I kind of, the more you wake up and you see the world for what it is, and you realize that it is all just a system of control to keep us distracted, to keep us fighting amongst ourselves, you realize just how much politics is pointless. It's just a system to keep us busy and distracted, folks. That is exactly what politics are. Victors write the story. Michael, absolutely right. History goes to the victors. And that's why we have all of this clueless questions about all of this stuff because the victors wrote all the true history out. Um, keep us down to keep, if you didn't have to pay for free for energy, folks, imagine how much that would change the name of the game. Um, if your electric bill was free, if the fuel to power your vehicles were free, what would you need all of these oil barons for? What would you need all of these endless wars to control the straits of whatever and to control all the oil flows in the Middle East? All of these endless wars would be done overnight if the true knowledge of free energy, the true knowledge of what we were capable of, what we are capable of, was revealed. And that's why all of this information is so restricted. I find books before 1860 aren't too bad, but try to find much older ones. Yeah, and unfortunately, there is a timeline with that, Michael. Unless books are perfectly preserved, preserved and protected from like humidity, the elements, they won't last longer than a couple hundred years before they literally turn to dust. That's another problem with our history. Why we've lost so much of it is not just like fires of these great libraries and stuff, but these books that the history was written on are deteriorating daily. So if you guys find well preserved old books, scoop them up, preserve them. Uh, that is truly where you will find bits and pieces of our true history, of our true past. Energy should be free. The dams were built and paid for by the people and their tax. Yes. Dams are another great thing about dams there, Noah, is I believe a lot of these dams across the world were used to erase history as well, flood ancient cities, especially in places like America and Africa. Flood ancient cities, change landscapes completely. Um, Again, just like the Great Fires, erased mass amounts of history in an instant. Hey, Angel, so glad that you're here as well, that you found here this live. Sorry, I had a little more details and depths that I wanted to go over on the Star Forts today, but unfortunately, like I said, my computer's not really cooperating well with me, guys. So I'm just kind of rifting with your guys' questions for the rest of the episode, seeing if I can get my notes pulled back up. Usually, I'm an old man. I have all my show notes and stuff that I want to go over on paper, but since again, Snowmageddon, couldn't get into my wife's school to print these off. So I thought they would be fine digitally, but not so much with my computer. I should have known. Should have known. I was tripping if I was even watching live. Yes, that's why they wrote it in stone. Yes, that's why a lot of what was written on some of these ancient sites were written in stone, so they were harder to erase. You're absolutely right there. But it's pointless when we're not giving the codex to understand what they're saying. We're just told by academia, the hieroglyphics of Egypt, etc. When we don't know how to translate them properly, that's very pointless if it's written in stone or not, unfortunately, because all of our world elites, it's a game to keep all this knowledge hidden from us, honestly. Um, a lot of these star forts, they are indeed made of red brick, especially that largest brick masonry structure in the the North Americans, Fort Jefferson. Was it 12 million red bricks? I said. Let's see if I have that figure written down still. Yeah, Fort Jefferson was used 16 million bricks, largest brick masonry structure in the Western Hemisphere. And it sits on the middle of a sandbar. Very interesting. Most people don't know that that is the largest brick structure. It's a unfinished, incomplete star fort in the middle of the Gulf of America. Nephilim Hunter, you said if I go on Tim's show, 6th Century, he's looked into quite a few of those dams and know a lot of the cities they covered up with. Yeah, and the dams are another episode I want to talk about because there are tons of cities, like Nephilim Hunter's saying, quite a few of these dams were used to cover up tons of these cities. I'd love to see what he has to say about them. He emailed me actually, Nephilim Hunter, today, so I just reached out to him pretty much right before I went live. So hopefully we'll get together in the next couple days and we'll plan out a time to either have him on our show here or on his show. Either way, looking forward to seeing what he has to say even more, especially that he seems to know a lot about these dams. There is a Starfort battery you never hear anything about in Honolulu, Hawaii. Ooh, really? Is there, Angel? I do remember that actually, now that you said that. Let me pull back up that Starfort map and see. We'll see if I can get that Starfort map pulled back up real quick. Yeah, there is indeed a Starfort in Hawaii as well. That kind of is a narrative breaker. Gosh darn, I am very frustrated with these computers some days. Okay, here we go. Yep, right here. Let me share my screen for you guys so you can see it. I think there's a couple star forts in Hawaii, if I'm not mistaken. This is one here. Let me see. Right here. Pretty much buried, but you can still see the outline of it. Apparently, it was a old Russian fort. But yeah, you can still see that star fort outline here. That wasn't the one that you were talking about, though, Angel. You said there's a star fort battery in Honolulu. Let me see if I can go to Honolulu. Let's see if we can find that one real quick because that doesn't show up on this star fort map. There's a pretty extensive list, but it does not have all of them. Do you know whereabouts in Honolulu? Is it like in the middle of the city, probably on the edge? Actually, it looks like a whole area is built like a star fort almost. If you look at it, that doesn't look natural at all there. Let's see here. If I was a star fort, this is probably where I would be. Looks very star forty. Moku Island. Don't fault me on that pronunciation there. This does very much look like a Starfort island, a very non-natural looking island with the shapes and the lines. Remember, nature does not make straight lines, folks. Angel, if you know exactly where that is on Honolulu, I'd love to check it out. Does the old world have any theory on? I'm not in that particular area in Mexico. No, I mean, I'm not exactly sure. Mexico City is very interesting how it was built completely on top of a lake, right? but I haven't heard of anything particularly on that city. I'll write it down though and check it out, see what I can find out about it for you, my friend. Maybe talk about it on our Open Lines Friday episode. I got it written down here. I'm not going to pronounce the city. I don't want to butcher that. Largest red brick structure in the world. And the other half of the world is Malbork Castle. Very interesting. Malbork Castle. I haven't looked into that one actually. Michael, I'll write that down though. I was kind of wondering what the other side of the world's largest brick structure was. I was thinking it was a star fort, kind of assuming it, but we'll take a look into that. Maybe we'll talk about that on Friday as well. All right, folks. So I will have more on star forts probably on the Friday episode. If for whatever reason the live show with Dave falls through on the 19th, I like I said, I just haven't confirmed it 100% with him in the last couple weeks since I talked to him. But as far as I know, it's still good to go. He should be on our show next episode, the 19th, 10:30 p.m. live. If not, I will bring up my is anyone else not seeing anything but a black screen? Wouldn't surprise me, Angel, if you are. I'm having problems generally with my internet right now. Um, Kind of frustrating because all my notes are on the web right now and I can't really access any of them. So, like I said, we'll go more into Star Forts on Friday's episode after Dave's question and answer live on Thursday. So, get those questions in for Thursday's episode, and we will touch more on the Star Forts on Friday's episode as well. Sorry about the technical difficulties here on my end tonight, folks. Just kind of cruddy, slow internet. Having internet issues ever since that blizzard, but should hopefully be all back to normal on the next episode. Of course, there was a huge fire there in 1959. Are you talking about the largest brick structure on the other hemisphere, Malbork Castle? Would be surprised. A great fire is always seems to be the case with those. Okie doke, folks. So we will wrap it up here for tonight. Like I said, my computer's not really cooperating like I wanted it to, but we did highlight quite a lot about these star forts, some of the odd ones that break the narrative behind them outright, like Fort Jefferson, the largest red brick mason structure with over 12 million bricks in the middle of nowhere in the Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of America, whatever you prefer. We talked about New Mexico Star Fort again in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the desert, far from any defensive formation or anything that would be a viable defensive formation for any enemies. Talked a little bit about what the possibilities for the use of these Star Forts, what I believe they were. They were a worldwide connected grid, part of that ether free energy tech. We'll talk more about them in detail on Friday's show. Like I said, the Open Lines Friday show. If you want to be a part of that show or any of our other shows, if you have any questions or comments you want to discuss about these episodes, Discord's a great place to do that. We will see you all here on Thursday, the 19th, for our question and answers segment with Dave from Dave Weiss from Flat Earth. Dave, the one and only. Bring your questions and comments if you guys want to debate him and try and prove to him that it's a globe. He's got a 3 Bitcoin prize for those who can. Hope you guys have a great rest of your evening. Thanks again for tuning in live, and we will see you Thursday. And until then, question everything, friends. Have a great rest of your night. Thanks again for stopping by.